Hey friends, in this video we are going to be reading our big literature book, which is titled Bread Comes to Life, a Garden of Wheat and a Loaf to Eat. And it's by George Levinson, and it said he's the author, and it says photography by Shmuel Thaler. They took all of the pictures. So before we get started, Bread Comes to Life is an informational text. And an informational text gives facts about people, places, things, or events, and often has photographs that show real things. So obviously, we can see that here is a picture of bread. And so as we read, make sure you have your pencil and a piece of paper so that you can set your paper up just like how I have mine. And the reason is because we're going to be using this chart to help us make sure that we know the sequence of events that is required to make bread. So in each of these boxes, this first box, I have the word first. So we're going to put what happens first here. Then we're going to put what happens next. Then we're going to put what happens in this next box that says then, and we're gonna put what happens last at the end. And the arrows show us the order in which it is happening. So as we are reading the story, we're going to fill in our graphic organizer, and by the time we're done, we are going to know how bread is made. Oh yeah. Okay, let's get started. I'm excited. Bread is the food we eat every day. So many kinds, so many ways. White bread, black bread, small bread, tall bread, thin bread, twin bread, dinner rolls, bread with holes, hard, day-old, tough bread, soft, squishy, fluff bread. Bread is toast. Bread is crumbs. Bread is pizza. Bread is buns. How is bread made? Where is it from? This baker makes his bread from scratch by sowing wheat in his backyard patch. Soon those seeds send down roots and sprout into shoots of bright green grass. So I read that the baker makes his bread from scratch. I'm going to pay close attention to the steps that he uses to make bread. First, it says that he plants seeds so that they can grow. I'm going to add this to our chart. So the first thing that we're going to add is we plant seeds. Seeds are planted. That's way too small. Let's make that bigger. That's too big. Seeds are planted. Okay. Boom. We need to put a period at the end of that. That's a complete sentence. Alrighty. So now we have our first step in getting bread. Let's keep going. The days pass, and that grass grows into sturdy blades, tall and straight, finely made, with budding heads and bristly hair, gently waving in the air. Oh yeah, so now we see that the wheat that the baker has planted has now started to grow into tall plants. When the crop is ripe and old, the tops are bowed and streaked with gold, and every head of wheat contains many tiny finished grains. So what stage of growing is the wheat in now? Is it just starting out? Is it young? No. It is ripe and old. It is finished growing and it is ready to be picked. How can you tell? How can we tell? There are many different answers that you may have. Some friends may say that because the wheat is now gold and it's not white, it's not green anymore. Some friends may say the words ripe and old are on the page. There are many different answers as to how we can tell that the wheat is ripe and old. Let's keep going. Time to cut the golden field. Gather up the backyard yield. Stack up piles of sun-dried stalks. Rub them in a threshing box. It's the simple old-time miller's craft of separating wheat from chaff. So what is the baker doing on this page? What is the baker doing on page 16? It looks like he's cutting all of the wheat from outside and he's gathering it all together. What about on page 17? What is the baker doing on page 17? He's using a tool to separate the wheat grains from the rest of the plant. So these down here are the wheat grains, and he wants to get these out of this plant. Oh yeah, let's keep going. What's left are seeds, a hefty load, many times the number sowed. And each new grain of harvest wheat looks just like a loaf to eat. Now is the hour to grind those grains into whole wheat flour. With simple tools and easy rules, it's on with the show to make up some dough and bring fresh bread to life. So after the seeds grow, what does the baker do? What does the baker do with the seeds? He grinds the grains into flour. So after the seeds grow, the wheat is cut and then the baker grinds the grains into flour. So let's add that into our chart. So first, seeds are planted. Next, the wheat is ground into flour. So next, the seeds are ground into flour. So next, oh wait, I need to add an S there. The seeds are ground into flour. Let's keep reading to figure out our next step. Yeast, honey, water, flour. Salt, oil, and muscle power. Dump it, thump it, dust it, knead it, squash it, stretch it, toss it. So after the baker made the flour, what did he do next? What did he do with the flour next? He used it to make dough. So he used it to make dough. He mixed it and he kneaded it and he dusted it and he squashed it and he stretched it and he tossed it. Because he is trying to make the perfect dough. So now we can add that next. We can add that to our box that says then. So first, seeds are planted. Next, the seeds are ground into flour. Then, the flour is used to make dough. The flour is used to make dough. Let's keep reading. We're almost done. Set it aside to rest and rise. It grows and grows to twice the size. Punch it down, give it some shape, let it rise again, put it into bake. So what is the last step that we use to, what is the last step to make the bread? So first, the seeds are planted. Next, the seeds are ground into flour. Then the flour is used to make dough. Then what do we do with the dough? What do? We put the dough in the oven to bake the bread. So we bake the dough. Bake the dough. So the last thing that we do before we get to our bread is bake the dough. Let's keep reading. Slice it fresh. It's better than cake. Whatever the shape it finally takes, wherever the place it finally bakes, every day we are blessed with a mountain of bread. It's the staff of life. May all be fed. The end. So now that we've read our story and filled our graphic organizer, we now have a clear step-by-step chart of how bread is made. First, seeds are planted. Next, the seeds are ground into flour. Then, the flour is used to make dough. Last, we bake the dough. That is how we make bread. Wow, that's so awesome.